Most people believe that bad financial decisions come from a lack of knowledge. They assume that if they understand enough, read enough, and think logically, their money decisions will improve. But this belief is comforting, not accurate. In reality, most financial damage is not caused by ignorance. It is caused by emotion. People often know what they should do. They know they should wait. They know they should stay disciplined. They know they should not react impulsively. And yet, they do the opposite. This is because money is not just numbers. Money is emotional. It is connected to fear. It is connected to security. It is connected to identity. It is connected to self-worth. So when money is involved, logic rarely acts alone. Fear enters quietly. Excitement sneaks in unnoticed. Anxiety disguises itself as urgency. And before people realize it, emotion has taken control. This is why logic is not enough. Logic explains what should be done. Emotion decides what actually gets done. Most people lose control not in dramatic moments, but in ordinary ones. A small drop creates anxiety. A sudden gain creates excitement. A quiet period creates doubt. Each emotion feels reasonable in the moment. Each one feels justified. Each one pushes toward action. And this is where wealth begins to erode. Fear convinces people to protect themselves prematurely. They exit too early. They abandon structure. They trade long-term stability for short-term relief. Excitement does the opposite. It creates overconfidence. It encourages risk. It convinces people they are smarter than they are. Both emotions lead to the same outcome: interference. Interference destroys consistency. Consistency is what wealth requires. Most people do not lose money because they make one terrible decision. They lose money because emotion causes them to make many small, unnecessary ones. They adjust plans too often. They react too quickly. They second-guess too frequently. And over time, this behavior compounds negatively. One of the most dangerous emotions with money is the need to feel in control. Control feels safe. Control feels responsible. Control feels intelligent. But many forms of control are illusions. Checking constantly. Adjusting repeatedly. Responding to every change. These behaviors feel like control, but they actually increase emotional exposure. The more emotionally involved someone becomes, the weaker their decisions get. Those who succeed financially understand this early. They do not try to eliminate emotion. They build systems that protect them from it. They reduce the number of decisions they must make. They create rules that operate when emotions are present. They design behavior that does not rely on feeling calm. Most people try to think their way out of emotion. That rarely works. Emotion does not disappear through understanding. It disappears through structure. This is why intelligence alone does not protect wealth. Smart people feel emotions just as strongly as anyone else. Sometimes more strongly. The difference is not intelligence. It is discipline. Discipline creates distance. Distance creates clarity. Clarity protects judgment. In the next part, we will explore how emotions quietly take control over time, why people underestimate their influence, and why emotional discipline is one of the most important financial skills anyone can develop. One of the biggest mistakes people make with money is believing that emotions only matter during extreme situations. They think emotions appear only during crashes, only during big wins, only during moments of obvious stress. But emotions influence decisions long before things feel dramatic. They influence how often people check. They influence how quickly people react. They influence how confident or uncertain people feel during ordinary, quiet periods. This is why emotional damage accumulates slowly. People rarely wake up and decide to sabotage themselves. They slowly drift away from discipline through small emotional reactions that feel harmless. A little fear, a little excitement, a little anxiety, a little doubt. Each one feels manageable, but together they shape behavior. Fear is often the first emotion that takes control. Fear does not always feel intense. Sometimes it feels like caution. Sometimes it feels like responsibility. Sometimes it feels like being careful. Fear convinces people to reduce exposure too early. It whispers that safety is more important than consistency. It encourages retreat at the exact moment patience is required. Over time, fear trains people to avoid discomfort, even when discomfort is temporary and harmless. Excitement is equally dangerous. Excitement creates confidence without foundation. It encourages speed. It creates the illusion of insight. People feel sharp. They feel ahead. They feel justified in taking risks they would normally avoid. Excitement convinces people that rules no longer apply, that discipline can be relaxed, that restraint is unnecessary. But excitement fades, and when it does, the consequences remain. Another quiet emotion that destroys wealth is anxiety. Anxiety lives in uncertainty. It thrives during waiting. It grows when nothing is happening. Anxious people struggle with silence. They struggle with stillness. They struggle with not knowing. So they interfere. They adjust plans. They check repeatedly. They search for reassurance. This behavior feels responsible, but it erodes confidence over time. Anxiety trains people to mistrust patience. It conditions them to believe that action is always safer than waiting. Over time, anxiety replaces judgment. Another emotion people underestimate is ego. Ego does not always appear as arrogance. Sometimes it appears as confidence. Sometimes it appears as independence. Sometimes it appears as the belief that one is different. Ego convinces people that they can bend rules, that they can manage risk emotionally, that discipline is for others, not for them. Ego encourages unnecessary action. It encourages complexity. It encourages overconfidence. And overconfidence leads to exposure. All of these emotions share one trait. They demand action. They push people to do something, anything, simply to escape discomfort. This is why emotions are so destructive with money. They do not ask whether action is necessary. They only ask whether action feels relieving. Those who succeed financially learn to delay response. They create space between feeling and action. This space is critical. Without it, emotion becomes behavior. With it, emotion becomes information. Those who build wealth do not eliminate emotion. They expect it. They assume fear will appear. They assume excitement will rise. They assume doubt will surface. Instead of fighting these emotions, they design systems that operate despite them. They reduce decision frequency. They simplify choices. They create rules that prevent impulsive behavior. Structure replaces willpower. Most people rely on self-control. Self-control is fragile. It weakens under stress. Structure is durable. It works even when emotions are strong. This is the difference between knowing what to do and actually doing it. Emotions cannot be reasoned away. They must be managed indirectly. Those who try to outthink emotion usually lose. Those who build structure quietly gain control. In the next part, we will bring this together. We will explain how emotional discipline is developed over time, how calm behavior creates financial advantage, and why those who master their emotions protect wealth even when conditions are difficult. Emotional discipline is not something people are born with. It is something that is developed slowly, through repeated exposure to discomfort. Most people assume discipline appears once confidence appears. They believe that once they feel secure, calm decisions will follow. But discipline works in the opposite direction. Calm decisions come first. Confidence follows later. Those who build wealth do not wait to feel emotionally ready. They act according to structure, even while emotions are present. They understand that emotions are signals, not commands. Fear does not mean danger. Excitement does not mean opportunity. Anxiety does not mean urgency. These emotions only indicate internal response, not external reality. Most people fail because they treat emotions as instructions. When fear appears, they retreat. When excitement appears, they rush. When anxiety appears, they interfere. Over time, this pattern becomes automatic. Emotion becomes habit. Habit becomes behavior. Behavior becomes outcome. Those who succeed interrupt this chain early. They learn to pause. They learn to delay reaction. They learn to sit with discomfort without responding to it. This pause is where emotional discipline is built. At first, it feels unnatural. It feels passive. It feels irresponsible. But slowly, something changes. They begin to notice patterns. They recognize recurring emotional cycles. They see how fear, excitement, and doubt repeat in predictable ways. This awareness creates distance. Distance reduces urgency. Reduced urgency improves judgment. This is how emotional discipline grows. Another important shift happens when people stop trying to be right and start trying to be consistent. Most emotional decisions are driven by the need to feel correct in the moment, to justify action, to prove awareness. But wealth does not reward correctness. It rewards endurance. Those who succeed do not need to feel smart every day. They need to remain disciplined over long periods of time. This requires humility. Humility allows people to accept uncertainty. It allows them to accept slow progress. It allows them to accept that outcomes cannot be forced. Without humility, emotion dominates. Another key element of emotional discipline is acceptance of boredom. Boredom is a powerful signal. It often means systems are working. It often means no action is required. But most people interpret boredom as stagnation, so they disrupt it. They add complexity. They seek stimulation. They introduce unnecessary decisions. Those who build wealth learn to respect boredom. They recognize it as stability. They treat it as protection. They allow it to exist without interference. This is extremely difficult in a world that rewards constant activity. But financial success often requires the opposite behavior. Another reason emotional discipline matters is that it protects people during success, not just failure. Success amplifies emotion. Confidence grows. Ego expands. Risk feels smaller than it is. Many people lose control not when things go badly, but when things go well. They relax discipline. They increase exposure. They assume favorable conditions will continue. Emotional discipline remains necessary even during success. Those who succeed do not change behavior based on outcomes. They follow rules consistently. Rules protect progress. Rules prevent overreaction. Rules maintain alignment. Over time, emotional discipline becomes natural. Not because emotions disappear, but because behavior is no longer controlled by them. Fear still appears. Excitement still rises. Doubt still surfaces. But these emotions no longer dictate action. This is the real advantage. Most people spend their lives reacting. A few learn to remain steady. That steadiness compounds. It compounds through fewer mistakes. It compounds through preserved progress. It compounds through consistency that others cannot maintain. At the deepest level, emotions destroy wealth when they are allowed to drive behavior. Logic alone cannot prevent this. Knowledge alone cannot solve it. Only discipline can. Discipline that is quiet. Discipline that is boring. Discipline that continues regardless of feeling. Those who develop this discipline gain an advantage that cannot be copied easily, because it requires patience, it requires humility, it requires restraint, and most people are unwilling to practice these things long enough. But for those who do, wealth becomes not a matter of luck, but a predictable outcome of stable behavior over time.